Another week of college football, which means another week of prospects helping their stock and hurting their stock. Welcome to the Stock Report on What's Crack-a-Lackin'. It's your boy Broshmo. Just in case you did not know, so go ahead, become bro and subscribe. Leave this video a thumbs up if you enjoy the content. As always, let me know what you think in the comment section below, where we have that nice, beautiful football discourse. Let's go ahead and get into this sucker, starting with Jeremiah Trotter Jr. He has been on the up and up since probably about week 5, where he faced Syracuse, and this week was just phenomenal against Notre Dame, where he had 5 tackles, 3 sacks, 3 pressures. He even put the cherry on top with a 28-yard pick 6. Yes. Coming in at 6 foot, 230. Obviously, you look at the size, and it's like a little smaller than he would like. Maybe a guy that won't be the most consistent against the run game, but I think he does a good enough job of being a sure tackler, playing bigger than he actually is. Some of the other gripes you might have with him is not like a elite level athlete, which I think is fine, especially just, again, putting the play together. Like, he has been exceptionally solid. He is going to be, for the most part, a minimal gain type of guy. A guy that won't necessarily have all the splash plays and coverage, but be sure that, okay, if a wide receiver, they catch a ball underneath for like 4 or 5 yards, that's the only 4 or 5 yards they will be getting. So you like that. I like that they're starting to unload him on the blitz again. So thus far this season, 19 pressures and 5 sacks, and that's only on 76 pass rushing snaps. So you love that, man. This was a cat that was kind of an early faller the first few weeks of the season and has turned it around. Now we probably should be talking about him in the day 2 discussion. I mean, it was like, what, a few weeks ago I was like, yeah, I think he might be a 4th, like early day 3. I think he might be just returned to school. But now, like, just seeing him like step up the play so much, it's like, nah, let's get you back in that day 2 conversation, especially in a linebacker class where it's not like studded, it's not like loaded. I don't think he's gonna be on the tier of some of the guys like a Stutzman or a Cooper, whose plays just been phenomenal this season, or you got his teammate Barrett Carter, who's just a phenomenal athlete. So I think right after those 3, you start to talk about him maybe around like the Junior Colson, who's playing real good football for Michigan, has a bit better traits. So I currently have him as linebacker 5, but good on him. I want to give a shout out to his teammate, Xavier Thomas, man. Been a long road for Xavier Thomas, but he's been very productive this season. 7 pressures this game. A lot of that coming on interior players, whether the guards or Blake Fisher. Really, Joe Alt was kind of the only guy that came out of this game unblemished for Notre Dame. But let's keep this sucker rolling. We're going to stick with the defense. And I'm talking about Dwight McGlothern, dude. The McGlove. He's back. And he had a really good game against Florida. And I love that. This was definitely a my guy to start the season. And it's just nice to see him get healthy, return. He was dealing with, I know he had a concussion. I can't remember off the top of my head what was the other injury that was that's kept him out the last few weeks. But he returned, had 2 pass breakups, only allowed 2 receptions on 5 targets for 14 yards, had 5 tackles. He was active against the run game. And I'm a big fan of McGlothern, dude. Coming in at 6'2", 188. Matter of fact, Arkansas breaking the losing streak, winning. I think they won in overtime too against Florida, but he's got good size. I like just his understanding, right, of routes, route concepts. He's able to click and close quickly. This is a cat that's had a few pick 6s throughout his career. The straight line speed's pretty nice. I don't really think he's probably going to be a man-to-man defender, or a man-to-man defender in the NFL. I think he might be a little bit better as a zone player, just because of the instincts. But you can't have him impress. He is someone who can get rough, can can use his length and just really disrupt the timing routes and just get physical, and also at the same time be relatively discreet with his hands for the most part. Last year he had a ton of penalties, so sometimes he gets a little overtly physical, but I like that physical nature about him. Even when he's going for tackles, like this guy's scrapping for the football. Like I think one of my cons with him was like, man, the guy's got powerful hands, and sometimes rather than shoring up the tackle, which I mean, his tackle rate's been actually really good for him, that he will spend time just kind of trying to punch the ball out and make a big play. He had 2 forced missed fumbles last year. He has 1 this year, and he's only played a little over 200 snaps. But it's so great to see him back and see him healthy. This Arkansas team deeply missed him for a large part of this season, man. It's just good to see him back. Listen, I know you love the NFL draft as much as I do, and you're going to want a nice hefty watch list of players during this college football season. Well, go ahead, check out my draft guide. You can purchase it for only $30 by Venmoing or PayPaling me. Links in the description. It's a one-time payment, and you get it for this whole draft cycle and forever and always. Technically, it's a Google spreadsheet, so send me your email when you send the payment. I'll get you hooked up. You will see my current prospect rankings and big board, my full evals, and guess what? It updates throughout the whole draft cycle. So it's a great purchase, and it's a great way to support the channel. I'm going to stick with the corner class. I'm going to talk about Quintin Mitchell. I don't think I'm not positive if I've talked about Quintin Mitchell at length on this channel, but let's go ahead and get into it. Coming in at 6 foot, 196, had a really good game against Buffalo. That happened Tuesday night. It was one of the snow games. The other one was Central Michigan, but played well. Only allowed 2 receptions for 16 yards. I believe, what was the completion rate he allowed out there? I think it was like 28.6%. So kind of ridiculous. Again, the 2 pass breakups, had the 5 tackles. He's just been having a banger year. 9 for pass breakups on the season for Quintin. Former 3-star recruit from the 2020 class. Also played running back in high school, and became the starter in 2021 for Toledo, and he has been fantastic. 2022, he made first team All MAC. Love to see it. He had that game against Northern Illinois where he had 4 interceptions, where he had also 2 of those were pick sixes. This season, don't see the interceptions, but he is very aggressive around the catch location. Only allowed 43.9% of targets that come his way to be completed. So you like to see that. Plays a lot of off zone there at Toledo, but I think he does a good job coming downhill, takes appropriate angles, but he's willing to mix it up and get physical when he needs to. You go to the Ohio State game from last year where he was basically for a large portion of the game matched up against Marvin Harrison Jr. And yeah, Marvin Harrison did get the better of him, but it was actually a hell of a battle. Really was. Like, the touchdown that Harrison had on Mitchell was so contested, and it was honestly very well thrown ball. So, like, definitely a cat that's going to be a hot name on the All-Star circuit. I expect to see him at the Senior Bowl. I am kind of curious how he'll test out. I'm not sure so much about, like, I've heard that he can run like a sub 4.4. I don't think I've necessarily seen that on film though. So that's going to be a little bit interesting. Not saying he's slow or anything, but just, not watching him, I'm like, I didn't see elite level speed like that. So it's going to be cool. It's going to be cool to see how he ends up testing out. But let's go ahead and move to the offense. Talking about Jordan Morgan. You should be familiar with the name if you've seen the stock or if you've seen my prospect rankings. If you're not, let's talk about it. He had to take on Liatu Latu, Gabriel, and Grayson Murphy, and he only allowed a single pressure on 39 pass sets as Arizona goes on to, I guess, shock. I mean, this is a week after they beat Oregon State, but I guess shock, upset UCLA, but coming in at 6'6", 320 pounds, has had another phenomenal season. These are 2 back-to-back really good years for him. He should be in that first round discussion, at least at the back end of the first round. I'm really big fan of him. I think he's got great movement skills. I think he's got a lot of power throughout his frame. I'd like to see him maybe use that power a little bit more often. But I think the big one for me is going to see what his arm length comes out to at the end of the year. I feel like he'll be in that 33-inch realm, but I'm not sure if it's going to be above or below. So depending on that, man, some people might look at him as a interior prospect. But I don't know. We'll see, man. Maybe. I mean, again, I'm just kind of eyeballing the arm length. So yeah, we'll see with that. But man, he's had a really, really good season thus far, and that's great to back it up after having a great season in 2022. He would have been in last year's draft if not for the ACL tear. He had, I think it was in their week 10 or week 11, so it was late in the season. So that kind of spurred why he decided to come back. But we're gonna be talking about running backs a lot right here, right now. We're gonna be talking about a ton of them. I'm gonna start with Dillon Johnson out of Washington, and first and foremost, I don't see him coming out this season. I don't. He does have another year of eligibility. I think he is probably going to take it. He's coming in at 6 foot, 218 pounds, had a stellar game against USC where he ran for over 250 yards, had 4 tutties. He was a former 3-star recruit in the 2020 class. He played both running back and defensive back in high school. He also played basketball, where he actually owns his high school single season or single game record for points in a game with 53. So kind of a baller. He started his career at Mississippi State in that Mike Leach air raid, RIP Mike Leach, and didn't really get started in reps until year 2 in 2021, where he had 7 starts, and then in the following season in 2022, where he ended up having 6 starts. So you know that this cat probably has soft hands. He's displayed that. He's got a little receiver, a little pass catcher in him. Don't we all, though? Don't we all? And you kind of see that with Washington. They're willing to line him up on the outside. I think there were a couple of games where he lined out wide against USC. So you like that. You like that he has that as a pass catcher. He's a hard-nosed runner, man. Really hard-nosed, no nonsense. He likes to be a north-south runner. He will not overstay his welcome in the backfield, and once he sees it, he goes. I like that he does a good job of getting low, dipping the head. When he goes into contact, he eats contact relatively well. He's just not an elite level athlete. He's maybe moderately a high-end athlete. He really doesn't have that speed. He almost got chased down on the long touchdown. How long was that? 53? On the 53-yard touchdown, he almost got chased down by Kalen Bullock, which, granted, it's Kalen Bullock. That guy flies, but still, I think this is a cat that can get caught from behind. Does have another year of eligibility, and I think he will use it. I don't see him being more than a day 3 guy at best. And maybe, I don't know, maybe he stays there at Washington in another year. Things change, perhaps, because his missed tackle rate's not crazy. 113 attempts on the season, only 17 forced missed tackles for a guy that honestly does eat contact well, does get yards after contact, but typically goes down after first or second contact. Doesn't really have the speed to break away at the second level. So guys are just going to swarm and bring him down, but definitely had to be a name I talked about this week after just the stellar game against USC. And then I have RJ Harvey. Finally got into this guy. I was freaking so happy because he was a guy that I've seen in the comment section occasionally. I know he's been balling out there for Central Florida. So let's go ahead and just talk about him. Had a good game against Cincinnati where he had 3 tutties, almost ran for 150 yards, coming in at 5'8", 195, and he was formerly a 3-star recruit, right? The 2019 class, and he played quarterback his whole high school career, but he was largely viewed as a running back recruit. He ends up going to Virginia where he redshirts his freshman season and then decides to transfer right after that. Didn't look up why, but here he is. Central Florida, was a special teamer primarily in 2020, tore his ACL prior to the season in 2021, so he missed that whole year. But came back last year, and I think he led the team in rushing yards despite only having 3 starts. Has been the starter basically almost every game this year. Leads the team with 888 rushing yards, 9 tutties on the season. You'll love to see it. And first thing you look at is that 5'8", 195. Okay, smaller back. Probably kind of a freak athletically. And like, while, yeah, he is quick. He's got some speed to him. It's not really that elite or high end for a smaller back. It's just not. And that lower center of gravity he has just means, okay, his legs aren't going to have that long a stride. So trying to build up that speed, he's not really going to have the home run ball in his arsenal. Like it'll just take. He's just not going to be a long strider, and I think that's okay because this is a guy that can rattle off yards in chunks. Because I love his running style because he is shifty in a phone booth. He's shifty in close quarters. Once you get him out in open space, he looks like he's on the hardwood, dude. He's out here trying to cross people up. His feet are quick. I love how he draws defenders in before deciding to kick to the outside. He does have relatively good acceleration to win the corner there and rattle off maybe an explosive gain for like 10, 15 yards. So you like that. Soft hands as a pass catcher as well. Only 2 drops through his whole career, and they all came last season. Hasn't dropped a ball this season. Does run the like basic running back route tree, but that's fine. Like average depth of target's like 1.8 yards, but that's fine. Like you want to get this guy into the open field and just let him work, let him make moves, and I like that about him. He's an okay pass blocker, right? He's an okay pass protector, but at his size, you're not going to be asking him to do that in the NFL. I don't see him doing that in the NFL. He's going to, just because that size is largely going to be looked at as a scat back. And I think, at least with his play this season, he should be a day 3 player. Where does he fall day 3? We're talking maybe 5th, 6th, 7th round. That's the area. I don't see him really going much earlier than that, but he was definitely fun to watch. I love how shifty this guy is. I love how he keeps his feet moving through contact with that lower center of gravity being just stout in his stature, that he's able to leverage. He's able to have a smaller hitbox, and he could just run through these arm tackles because the lower body strength is really good with him. Okay, what do we have here? We got a Blake Corm. I want to talk Blake Corm real quick. Coming off a 3 touchdown performance, but he only had 44 yards on 15 carries. He hasn't really blown it up this year. I know people are going to look at the touchdowns and be like, he had 18 touchdowns last year and he's already at 16. But it's like all of his other numbers are just so far down. Like, okay, the yards per carry are still pretty nice. I think he's at like 5. But the yards after contact are below 3. Not good. Only 15 forced missed tackles on 126 pass carries. Not great. He doesn't really offer much in the passing game, but we already knew that. So it's like with Blake Corm, man, it's like you really are dealing with a guy that has a high floor of being a solid running back in the NFL. But is he going to be much more than that? I don't think so. I think he's a committee back, or he's going to be a number 2 to somebody. I still think there's a lot of value in that, considering we live in an NFL now that's so committee back driven that if you could get kind of a sure guy like this who can be that lightning in the bottle, can eat contact. We haven't really seen it this year, but we have proof of that prior to the MCL injury. Would have been last year's class, at least I think he would have been. I think going in, he was like running back. I think he was running back 3 for me. But yeah, he had the sprained MCL, the torn meniscus, and I assume that's why he decided to come back. But man, this year, him and Donovan Edwards, they really haven't exploded. It's been JJ McCarthy. It's been the JJ McCarthy show. It just has been. But I think Donovan Edwards, I definitely see coming back. That guy is just phenomenal athlete. And just you look at him and the ceiling is so much higher than a guy like Corm. So Corm, if he ends up falling, it won't surprise me. I have a hard time seeing him fall out of day 2 though. But he like ends up going to the 3rd round and people are shocked by that. They should. This year hasn't been nearly as fruitful as it was the year prior. And then the last running back I want to talk about is Trayon Henderson. Big game this past week against Rutgers, and they needed it because woof, they were down 9-7 going into halftime. But big game. He goes for over 128 yards on the ground, 80 yards receiving. I think this is now back-to-back games. He has over 200 all-purpose yardage, which you love to see. This is a cat we've been waiting to kind of bounce back from injury. And to start the year off, it kind of felt like more of the same. Like, okay, like he's been fine, but I kind of want to see more from him. And last 2 games, I think he has shown that. He's shown the whole make you miss explosiveness that a lot of people had him as like a top 3 back potentially. But it's just nice to see him healthy again. And health may be a concern going in the NFL. And we'll see how he finishes the rest of the season. But this was exactly the back-to-back performances he needed. We hadn't seen him since the Notre Dame game, where honestly he was looking good at that point as well, but didn't start the year well against Indiana or Youngstown State, teams that they should have had no problem with blowing out, had in the stat sheets. He didn't really do that, but he has done it against much better competition. Wisconsin, Rutgers, hey, those are still quality Big Ten teams, and then Notre Dame. That's solid. I do like that the forced missed tackle numbers are up. They're by no means elite, but they are up. And yeah, I look forward to seeing more from him. They still got Michigan on the schedule, so that's going to be a kind of a big game for him, see how he can do. But you like that they're using him, that they've used him a lot in the passing game these last 2 games, because that was something they just really didn't do earlier in the season prior to him getting banged up. But yeah, he's a guy that's on the rise in a running back class that feels very wide open. All right, I'm going to talk about a couple of receivers to kind of end this list off. I want to talk about Trey Harris. I've probably talked about him once before, but he's having a stellar year. This was such a great game for him that, man, we just got to talk about him one more time because this receiver class is just so girthy. Really, really is. Coming in at 6'2", 205, had 11 receptions for 213 yards, had a touchdown in there as well. There was this one drive, and I got the picture up here, where it literally was like, okay, hey, I bet you I can only use one arm on this drive to catch everything. Because that's what he was doing. He had a whole drive where it was just nothing but one-handed catches. He had this one. He had the 2-point conversion. It was just nuts, man. I love this guy's hands. I really, really do. The drop rate thus far, like through his career, 5.9. Very good. I do want to, he's not been a great contested catcher this season, but he has shown in the past to be a very, very good one. So just going to kind of go with he as a contested catcher. He can do it. But if you're not familiar with him, his actual name's Cleveland, but he goes by Trey. former 2-star recruit from the 2020 class, where he played quarterback in high school, but was recruited as a receiver. Ends up going to Louisiana Tech, and it was 2021 where he started the final 9 games. And they were like, oh, we have to start this guy. And then 2022 ended up being first team All-Conference USA. Love to see it. Had a big game against Clemson that year. And decides to move to the Power 5. And he's just been doing it. This guy's missed time this season. I think he's missed a couple of games because of injury. Wasn't able to really play in the Alabama game. Left after the first quarter in the Tulane game. But like since coming back, man, he has been very good, especially the last like 3 games. He has been on. He has been on it. Very explosive athlete, whether it's out of his breaks or when he turns upfield. He is someone that can create after the catch. You love to see it thus far. 9 forced missed tackles on 38 receptions. That's actually better than his numbers last year. And again, doing it at a much bigger league, so to speak. Other things I like about him, strong hands. Again, through the course of his career, contested catch rate hovers around 50%. This year, it's not nearly as good, but that's fine. Not the most nuanced route runner, but someone you would love to get on your squad and work with him. Because like I think he's got it from all other areas. And I say not the most nuanced, just he's not the most crisp. He's really kind of a very, very simplistic. Like, okay, if it's like a one break route, then cool. That's great. He'll do it and he'll do it well. But more complex routes, I think he'll be a little bit more sluggish. I guess that might be the word I'm looking for, but this is a cat that's, for me, on the way up. And already a studded wide receiver class. I think I'm going to have to bump him. I had him 4th, and I think might have to bump him into my top 100 right now, man. He has been that good. A guy that I can't wait to see on the All-Star circuit. Then the final player I want to talk about, I already talked about this game a little bit, but it's Roman Wilson out of Michigan. A lot of people keep asking about him in the comments, so felt like, hey, he had a really good game this week. Let's go ahead and talk about him a little bit. He had 9 receptions for 143 yards. No tutty, but he already has 10 touchdowns on the year, so he didn't necessarily need a touchdown in this game. Now, he's a top 150 player for me. I have a 5th round grade on him, though. Coming in 6 foot, 192. I know people in the comment section love this cat. They love him. And I get it. Electric playmaker with game-changing speed and quicks. Has a nice change of direction. Can literally make you miss. A lot of that stems from his sprinting background. He was a sprinter and a jumper for track and field. Also, very sharp route runner. Has a knack of getting open on short routes. Knows how to create separation with just blistering speed. He can do that on deeper routes. I kind of have him as a vertical type of player. And he's shown like legit ball skills. Like go up, get it, bring it down with him. I think his contested catch numbers currently over the course of his career, 64.3%. So you love to see that. However, this is a guy that has basically worked out the slot the last 2 years exclusively. This season, it's 63.7%. So, okay, he's working outside and in the slot. But the year before that, it was 90%. I view him as a slot player because he also has a leaner build. Probably needs to put more weight on, especially if you're going to continue to be a good contested catcher. When on the outside, I feel like he kind of gets shut down against press, like when having to deal with physicality at the line or throughout the route, it kind of screws with him. So kind of needs to add more muscle. And on those shorter routes, sometimes he just kind of bobbles catches. Like he has had inconsistencies catching the football in the past. You go back, look at his drop rate. This year, it's 2.7. Phenomenal number. Prior years, 7.4, 7.4, and then 18.2. Granted, that was a very small sample size. But like all in all, I really like him. I view him as a vertical slot player. And there have been guys that I've viewed as vertical slot players that have gone way up my list. Like we could talk last year, I was a big fan of Marvin Mims. But even then, I thought Marvin Mims did a better job winning on the outside than Roman Wilson. And we're in a very studded wide receiver class. Like last year's class wasn't that studded. It just wasn't compared to this year. So yeah, with just a surplus at the position, then you're going to see very good talent just kind of fall down boards and whatnot. So I'm a big fan. He's currently my 5th highest ranked slot receiver, behind a couple of dogs I love in Ladd McConkey, Malachi Corley, who might end up being a running back. Big fan of Jacob Cowan out of Arizona. So it's like, it's not like I'm low on him. Just not as high as some of y'all are, but I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. That's it for the video. Go ahead, do that YouTube thing, but as always, till next time, you be easy, my friends. Later.